Walls of Destiny. Part 1. Chapter 12. Coming home? Everyone awoke to the happy chirping of the birds, who were beginning to migrate northward once again. Seeds began to germinate in the warmth of the camp, and the days were growing noticeably longer, lifting their spirits. I am happy to see that your elephant is doing better, but it is time for us to go, began Andanine as he rallied the horsemen. It has been a pleasure to meet all of you and to go on this short adventure with you, but we are expected back home, he said. We thank you, and please give your Jarl our regards, said Burdock as they helped the horsemen as they began to pack their gear. We could not have done this without you, said Losgrel as he shook Andanine's hand. Perhaps someday we will have the chance to repay the service you have given to us, he added as the horsemen waved and began their long journey home. As they broke down the camp, Mylo brought Jack to a small field of perennial grasses nearby. Mylo gestured to the field and spoke to Jack with his mind. Better fuel up, Jack. We have a 3-day ride back to the walled city, he began. I know it hasn't been that long, but it feels like forever since we walked those streets. Well, Mylo, we have had more adventure in the last few weeks than most have had in an entire lifetime, said Jack as he gobbled the green grass. You never did tell me what you meant when you said, we don't really die, and that it is just another door, said Mylo. Oh yes, you see, Mylo, people fear death because they don't know what is beyond that door, said Jack, directing his gaze toward Mylo. Mylo saw a depth and wisdom in the eyes of Jack that he had never noticed before. And, you know? Mylo asked. Yes. I have been many things and have seen death many times. I am not here because I fear the other side. Rather, I am here because this world needs looking after, said Jack. Are you saying that I will come back as something else after I die? Asked Mylo in astonishment. I can't know that for sure, but I do know that, ultimately, there is nothing to be afraid of, said Jack calmly. Okay, so why did you choose to become an elephant in this life? Asked Mylo as he practiced a sword move that Losgrel taught him. Huh, that is a good question, Mylo. Elephants do tend to get noticed, jested Jack. The two of them returned to the camp and helped to pack up, and soon they were on their way back to the walled city. Once again, it was just the 5 of them, Losgrel, Burdock, Longfellow, Mylo, and Jack, and of course, the 2 horses Apex and Glide. As they rode, Mylo pondered all that had happened. Not only his victory over the prince and the beast that he so dreaded, but also his victory over his own insecurities, fears, and his own destiny. He came to realize that the myths of his culture were wrong, or at least no longer applied to him. The Norn no longer had any sway over him, nor did any prophet, prince, or wizard. His whole life had led up to this moment of rising up and taking charge of his own path and becoming more than just an Atlantean farmer or metal worker. He still felt so much uncertainty. He knew he couldn't go back to his homeland without proof of his innocence. Could he go back to swinging a mallet in a forge in the walled city? It didn't seem to have much appeal to him anymore, but everyone must make a living. How does one integrate such experiences into their old life? He would still be known as the Enoi companion, but no one would know of the mission or his heroic deeds, for secrecy was part of the mission. At least I still had Yushime, he thought. The watchtower of Tian Mozat loomed in the distance, its sand-white bricks reflecting the noonday sun, a reminder that war had been averted. A brief debate ensued about whether or not to inform the guards at the watchtower of the thwarted attack, but it was decided that it could only cause further discord. After a day and a half, they reached the city of Railsville. It was not a walled city like Idriaxlan, but much of the city lay outside the protection of the walls. The train tracks led into the city and inside the walls, which protected only the city's most important infrastructure. The seer had told Longfellow of a vision she had had where he would have great success at gambling there in the city. Longfellow had always had a weakness for betting games and could not resist testing the seer's prediction. So, you are leaving us, then? Asked Mylo as they all paused to say goodbye to Longfellow. Only for a while. I will come back to the city and share my winnings with you when things get back to normal there, said Longfellow. Normal? Mylo looked to the east after checking the position of the noonday sun. I am not sure anything will be quite normal after all that has happened, he said before looking behind him. His voice faded to a whisper and he said, in fact, I have a strange feeling this isn't over. Though no one heard him. They all dismounted to say their goodbyes and send him off. Goodbye, Finn v. Longfellow, said Burdock as he gave him a firm hug and shook his hand. You were an indispensable part of this mission, and you showed great courage and ingenuity. If you are ever interested in becoming a wizard's apprentice, I would certainly vouch for you. Good luck, my friend. Losgrel approached and shook Longfellow's hand. You fought bravely, young man, he offered. Mylo gave Longfellow a hug. Try not to get yourself in debt again, okay? He said as Longfellow slung his pack over his shoulder and headed toward the city's gate. Longfellow turned to them and thanked them. I will never forget any of you or this mission. Maybe we will do it again sometime, without the coming close to dying parts. I will see you all again soon. They all stretched their limbs and mounted up. They would have one more night of setting up camp before arriving at last at their destination. They passed by many merchants and travelers on the road, none of whom were aware of all the adventures they had just embarked on and the dreaded war they had just prevented. Traveling at a leisurely pace, they chatted about all that had happened and what was to come now that their adventure was finally coming to a close. Do you think the walled city will be safe for us now? Asked Mylo. Safe enough, I suppose, said Burdock as he filled his pipe. Hopefully Yushime will have better insight on the matter. I look forward to chatting with him again. It has been so long since I have seen him, or the walled city for that matter, said the wizard who began to reminisce about the last time he was in the city. Assuming Raybor's injuries aren't critical, he paused and took a puff from his pipe. It is probably that we haven't heard the last of him. Though caution must still be used, I am sure he will never take you lightly again. Mylo, how did you ever learn Phoenician? That was quite impressive and surprising. I studied it at the Great Library. I wanted to impress Ellie. Mylo paused and pondered if the city would let him forget about the times he shared with her within its walls. Losgrel positioned glide between the two of them, interrupting Mylo's thought. Don't forget, the mission is not over, at least for me, until it is clear that you are out of danger, he said as he turned his gaze to the wizard. I will look after him in the city as long as it takes, Burdock, said the knight. He turned back to Mylo. I have watched you grow as an individual and as a warrior. If it is your will, I would gladly petition you for honorary knighthood. I don't know what to say, said Mylo. What an honor that would be. I accept, said Mylo, still in awe of Losgrel's words. Very good, laughed Burdock. And a fine night you will make. After setting up camp for a final night, they awoke and rode on and found themselves in Idriaxis Pass. Beggars, merchants, and conmen of the village murmured to each other over the sight of the three of them. Unusual, it must have been to see an elephant, a knight, and a wizard traveling together. Their eyes met the slack-jawed gaze of the locals. The familiar scent of the pine forest to the north filled the air. As they made their way north along the slight incline that led to the walled city, the majestic pines stood tall on either side of what remained of their group. Mylo felt the same sense of newness and wonder as he did when he arrived nearly a year ago. He tried to savor the feeling as long as he could. As Yushime had so eloquently once said, it is good to be present. His heart quickened. Home at last, he said silently as the towers and buildings rising up over the walls became visible. So, this is it, isn't it? Asked Mylo. The end of our adventure. Burdock slowed his pace and pulled closer to Mylo. The red wizard looked intently at Mylo with a twinkle in his eyes. No, my friend. The adventure never ends. It lives on inside of you. No matter what you do or where you end up, whether you are a knight, a blacksmith, farmer, or wizard, never let the adventure die. End of Walls of Destiny, Part 1.